Today we're going to be talking about learning, teaching and technology. Notice that I put technology at the end of that phrase because I firmly believe that the learning and the teaching should be our first priority when we're talking about technology. There's no doubt that our world is changing socially, culturally, politically, economically. These transformations are accelerating in the times that we're living in. And it's clear to us that technological change is a key driver of these transformations. Therefore, it is not only an important part of our life, it's an important part of our learning. ICTs can be both exciting and threatening, but we have no choice. We do have to, not only because the syllabus tells us so, but because we want to do the best thing for our students in preparing them for the future. So we obviously have to embrace ICTs in our classrooms. Are the students different? I think you'll find they are. We refer to these kids as digital natives, as social networkers. They're keen to work on their own or in collaboration. Very much at home when they're equipped with computers, the internet, smartphones. All of these things are very much part of their lives. What we need to ensure is that these technologies are not only part of their life at home and outside school, but they're also part of their life within the school environment. Fortunately, there has been a push to change that, and so slowly but surely we are getting more ICT involvement in the classroom. The students that we are teaching are not frightened of technology. I don't think you are frightened of technology either, but there are many older teachers who do have a fear, but hopefully they are moving on from that. The kids today have immediate involvement in any new technology. They explore before they certainly don't read the manuals. They're straight away into the technology. They seem to be able to intuitively work it. So, in light of this, does the school that we are teaching at or that we're going to teach at, is it different? Has it changed? Has it made the advances needed? Have the teachers made the advances needed? There has been a big change in pedagogy. We've moved away from the chalk and talk, the telling, the lecturing. We've moved more towards the students being involved in their own learning. There's been a big push with pedagogy that develops those 21st century skills we're talking about. Interactive pedagogy, students involved in their own learning. The question we're asking today is, how can technology help us as the teacher? We want our students to be able to apply learning in meaningful and varied contexts. We want them to be able to transfer their learning to new and novel situations and to solve problems that they've never seen before. So we're going to think about how we can use ICTs to help us with this. As teachers, we need to embrace new technologies and also pedagogies to match with them. We need to appreciate that our students are constantly exploring, negotiating and expanding their own literacies, particularly the digital literacies. And as teachers, we need to be doing that as well. So what is your vision? We can use classroom computers to benefit the system. We can use them to benefit the teacher or the student. With the system itself, we're thinking about collecting data, about test preparation, computerised assessment. All these are examples of the computer benefiting our educational system. Interactive whiteboards, presenting information or managing whole class simulations are examples of computing for the teacher, helping us to provide extra situations for our students to learn from. When we're doing that, the teacher is the actor, the classroom is the theatre, and the student's the audience, and the computer is like a prop. We want that computer to be used more. Our classroom is an intellectual laboratory and a vehicle for self-expression that allows each child not only to learn what we've always taught, perhaps with greater efficacy and efficiency or comprehension using ICTs. The computer makes it possible for our students to learn and do in ways unimaginable just a few years ago. So we need to be visionary about how we can use the technology to enhance the potential of these students. This is some points from about pedagogy, and I don't know why it keeps coming back. About, okay, it's not going to stay on there. It's about pedagogy and ICT, saying that ICT should facilitate higher order thinking and problem solving skills, real world tasks that require the integration of skills, access to information when needed, greater exploration of content and concepts. The student is the active architect of his or her own knowledge and skills. If we believe this, then we need to have an open mind about technologies, not get carried away with that wow factor. When we get access to a new technology, ask those questions. Will it do all of these things? All of those things. Think about why you are using the technology, how it will enhance that student's learning. Be careful of the practice of attaching new technologies to traditional practices. It's very easy to get caught up in that, thinking that the technology will just slot into the way we used to do things. There's a totally different focus in our teaching now, where we've got our students as active creators and digitally fluent participants in a learning situation. So we need to make changes to those traditional environments that we have been working in the past. Now, I'm sure that you all appreciate that we need not be fearful about technology. We just need to accept it and use it to assist our teaching. I'm sure you'll agree with me that there's no way our job is going to be replaced by a robot. Our interaction, our relationships with our students are crucial to their learning. So use the technology, do not be fearful of it. Now, the difference between the technology-centred approach and a learner-centred approach. In the technology-centred approach, we focus more on what the technology can do. If we're in the accepting the learner-centred approach, then we adapt the technology to promote learning. Whatever the format we're using, we do aim for authentic instruction. Can we create situations that are interesting and relevant to the students? Can we engage them? Do we have self-directed learning? Remember that old saying, tell me I will forget, show me I may remember, involve me I will understand. Involve your students with the technology as a tool. So we want authentic intellectual work, the construction of knowledge, discipline inquiry, value beyond school. Technology can be used to provide engaging and interesting materials to enable us to cater for differing learning needs. So rather than becoming the knowledge provider, you become the resource provider or the manager, but it is a very important role. Now, what changes have we seen? This is just one list. You can see it's 2007, so things would have changed even more today. But the reason I'm showing this is to get you to think about what your classroom will look like. What can you add on to that? Are you able to leave behind those traditional practices? Or, like me, do you believe that some of them have a place today? And so we incorporate them into today's teaching. The purpose of these images is to get us thinking about these changes. The first two at the top, using the old blackboard and then using the interactive whiteboard. I can't see much difference between the teaching that's happening there. In both situations, the teacher is at the front talking to the student and explaining things to the student. It's just that the medium is different. If you look at the bottom two pictures, you've got the boys on the right involved with their iPods, iPod touches, and then the children on the left up in a tree drawing. All of them are engaged in their learning. It doesn't really make any difference about the different tools or the different environment. It's that engagement that we seek when we want our kids to be focused on what they're doing. When we think about the learning environments that we create for our students, you need to link your space, the physical space, to the pedagogy in which you believe. The learner is our focus, so we might have to be innovative. We will no doubt be limited by school budgets, by the building that we have to teach in, by the occupational health and safety restrictions that are put on our teaching environments. But we need to think about creating the environment that's going to suit the way that we believe we should be teaching. If we provide laptops for our students, then we need to think about how we're going to use them. Not just use them, we want to have a vision for how they're going to enhance the learning. So they become research and communication and creation tools rather than just another version of a textbook. These are some up-to-date photos of learning environments. I like the primary school classroom in the bottom right-hand corner because I think that shows that learning is a social activity and the kids are certainly engaged in their learning there. I'm also interested in the fact that we have those round desks, and in the bottom left-hand corner, again, circular situations. We all know from our own experience around the dinner table at home that the interaction is greater when we seem to be able to have eye contact with the people that we're working with, or we're dining with, I mean. So what technologies will we have? Wikis, blogs, podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, instant news sites, smartphones, electronic readers, cameras, GPS, So how are we reframing our own personal learning experience as educators and as people in light of these shifts? Are we making these changes ourselves so that we understand what's happening in the world of our students? Of course, whatever ICTs we use in the classroom, we must evaluate them. This is just one list, and I'm not promoting it as the list, but I'm saying to you that you should think very carefully when you are using a new technology or a new piece of software about why you are using it. You want to provide purposeful, meaningful opportunities to develop and enhance the traditional literacy and the multi-literacy skills. You should have a list like this, or a similar list, that you keep with you when you're planning your lessons, particularly when you're using ICT. And this is just another list. The opportunities are endless, and I'm sure you can add to this list. You know, just having access to something like Google Earth, where if we're looking at redesigning an environment like Barangaroo, or building a bridge over a river, we can actually use Google Earth and focus in. If we're looking at traffic problems, it's amazing. You can show so much detail to your students all over the world. And if it's going to help their learning, use it. We want to encourage collaboration. Technology enables us to do that a lot. It also promotes publication in different ways. Use of multimedia technologies. Also great to use the web and showcase students' achievements. Now, ICT is a perspective in each of our syllabuses, and I've included these just to remind you that it is part of our syllabus. In design and technology, this is the list. Now you can see word processing, database, spreadsheets, multimedia, electronic communication in this researching of information. You can see that this is an old list. The concepts of gaming and virtual reality and social networking are not in this list. They're not in the food technology list. So this list in our current syllabuses, I believe, is based on an outdated view of what ICTs can do in the classroom. However, the bottom line is we do have to teach this syllabus, and so we have to be aware of what is being said to us. Now, we have got CAD in the industrial technology. You wonder why it's not in the design and technology, which is an interesting perspective from those times. These syllabuses are more than 10 years old. And we also know how much computers can be used in textiles technology, and yet this is the list that appears within that syllabus. Now today we're talking about ICTs as a cross-curriculum perspective. We're not talking about a digital technologies curriculum, which is a different perspective. Here we're talking about integrating our technologies into the classroom. So we've got this list here, which I think is very good. It's come from the Teach Bytes blog site, and it has a list of what we are doing when we are using technology, and then what we are doing when we're actually integrating it. And I think you'll agree that our aim is to integrate it, not just use it. So I'd like you to carefully read this and think about the difference between the statements on the left and the statements on the right, and how they might be incorporated into your classroom. That same blog site gave a rather lovely little scenario that I'm going to read to you. You're a school principal and decide to make the Apple iPad a cornerstone of your school's curriculum. You give at least one to every classroom. Every student is told to get familiar with the device, and you email out a bunch of edudemic posts on awesome apps we like to tell all your teachers and students about. Job done. You've provided the technology, you've provided the ideas for the apps. Perhaps it's not done. In another situation, the story is, you're a school principal and decide to make the Apple iPad a cornerstone of your students' learning. You hand out a handful of iPads to groups of students and have your teachers and other educators work with the students to uncover what apps and learning methods work best for them. You have a student-centric approach where the students are the main users of the iPad. You don't make it all about the iPad. You make it all about learning and simply use the iPad as just another tool to enhance said learning. Weigh the two stories up. Which principal would you want? What kind of teacher would you be if you threw an iPad into your classroom and basically used it mostly by yourself? That's one of the issues that's being discussed today, particularly as tablet computing and iPads are becoming more popular in the classroom. How are they being used? Who is deciding the best way to use them? Is it the teacher who doesn't have the same understanding that the students would have about this technology? Think carefully. What's your opinion? You'll observe different ways that laptops, iPads, different technologies are used in the classroom. You're not going to be in a position to be making too many school-based decisions at the early stages of your teaching, but you need to think very carefully about them. So when you do have the opportunity to give your opinions, you've given it that thought. Now, it's a big job that we've got ahead of us. There are a couple of places that I encourage you to visit, a couple of sites that I would like you to join up. PLANE stands for Professional Learning Anywhere, Anytime for Educators. And it's a government supported and across systems supported website where you can get all sorts of things, all sorts of assistance. You can learn different things. They have what they call skill snacks. They have a share club where you can share ideas. You can discover new things. You can play a game about education, about learning. There are heaps and heaps of wonderful ideas on here, and it enables you to develop yourself professionally as far as ICTs go, and to share ideas with other educators. So I encourage you to go to PLANE. Scootle is full of resources for the Australian curriculum, and you've had this mentioned to you before. It's really worthwhile joining up and having a look. Unfortunately, at the time of recording this, the technologies area is not on Scootle, but it should be after the curriculum has been accepted. But it's worthwhile having a look in the areas that have been developed there, and to keep your eye open on what's happening in Scootle. This is another website that's managed by the government, and it is a very important aspect of ICT use, because cyber safety is something that we are always concerned about. The bottom line for you as a teacher is, you need to understand what sort of situations have arisen in the past and what sort of situations could arise in the future that may be of danger to your students. But within the classroom environment, I think the best thing to remember is to be diligent. Be watching your students at all times. Be thinking about what they're doing, checking Don't be the teacher that sits out the front while the kids are doing their work on the laptops. Roam around the classroom so that the students know that you are observing what they're doing. But I encourage you to go and have a look at this site. There are a lot of resources there that you might like to use with your students in your classroom. Now, these are statements from the OEC document that you've been looking at. Students are active creators and digitally fluent participants. They have moved from passive reception to active engagement, and that's what they expect today. They expect their classroom to be similar to the real world. So we are conscious that we are moving in this direction. We have to be aware, of course, of not being exclusive. We have to be aware of the inclusive potential of technology rather than the exclusivity. Now, this is a video that gives us some insight into the collision of 3 storms that are coming, according to Mark Treadwell. He talks about the arrival of new technologies and a shift to the internet. He talks about the changes to how we learn and how we know we learn best. And he talks about the ability for people to use their own creativity to do their own learning. And then he says that these 3 aspects are merging and moving around us in the world of education. We can't predict what will come next. So people need to become lifelong learners, and teachers need to make changes in the classroom to prepare their students for this. Another quote, because this is what I'm challenging you to do. Not in my words, in the words of Groundwater Smith and her colleagues. Consider the relationship between technologies and emerging ideas about curriculum and pedagogy. Appreciate the ways that technologically mediated teaching and learning needs to be situated within frameworks that emphasise students as active creators and digitally fluent participants in a learning revolution. But that sums up my view of what we should be considering as we talk about integrating ICTs into the curriculum. Good luck with it.